Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this Thursday edition of the Next Gen Morning Commute. My name is Clemence, and I'm hosting the show today with Marcus. And so I'm just going to address straight in. Marcus, what have you been doing this week?
Morning, Clem. Not much, thanks. Been trying to get my feet back under the table after a nice weekend off. So this morning we have another tight ass Tomo frugal tip of the day, and in what seems to be becoming a Thursday tradition, I get to announce another birthday, which today is Tomo himself. Tomo, happy birthday! I know.
Very much.
You're very welcome. We won't sing to you again, don't worry. So I know everyone will join me in wishing you all the best for a wonderful day. Following Tomo's tip, we have an interview with Damien Rylett of Brunel Capital Partners and Financial Planning Trading Academy. And we've got a new feature, which is Marketing Focus with Alistair Walker, who today is joined by Phil Bray. But before all that, we've got Charles on the news desk from New Model Advisor. Morning, Charles. What have we got in the news?
So the headlines this morning. We'll start with the markets, as that was something that we were asked about at the end of the last time I did it. So FTSE was up very slightly at the open of the markets this morning at 0.49%. That was on the back of another fall yesterday, around 3% at the end of the day. The oil price hitting Shell and BP in particular. It might be interesting to note, though, for anyone who is following any kind of sustainable investment funds or anything like that. This morning, Shell did put out a responsible investment update. So that obviously whether Shell is actually a responsible investment is debatable, but worth following and seeing what happens with that. And clearly they are recognising that there is more of a demand for these kind of investments and people wanting, worried about the climate. So it'll be interesting to see whether they can really make good on their promise that all their products will be carbon neutral by 2050. The cynic in me says maybe not. Moving on to perhaps more advice-focused news in the market, DB transfers back in the headlines as they rarely leave now 5 years after pension freedoms. This morning we have a short story from Laura Perks, our reporter. She was talking to LCP and Steve Webb, the former pensions minister who works there now, and they've been looking at the transfer value requests they've received in the last few weeks, and they have gone down, probably unsurprisingly, given everything that's going on. But it could be quite an encouraging sign that at least some of the FCA's starker warnings about the rough practice from potentially using the current changes in the current situation to justify a transfer not being right. Hopefully people are listening, and there won't be any kind of bad decisions being made on the back of this. We also have a story that was published yesterday, but by our sister site, Wealth Manager, about the Tilney, the national advice firm's takeover of Smith & Williamson, which ran onto onto some rocks at the beginning of this year. We're still not sure exactly the details why, although Lucia over at Wealth Manager has done a great job at doing a bit of digging, and we think we're getting a full picture now of concerns about the structure of the deal, which I think is interesting if you think about advice acquisitions in general. So if you read our story this morning, you will see that the deal's been changed so that there will be more equity and less debt in the acquisition, potentially a sign of where the FCA and other regulators had concerns about what was going on. And finally, you might have seen the story yesterday that the government has said it is working on support for directors who pay themselves in dividends. Obviously, this affects quite a lot of advisors, particularly some who who set up their own firms and pay themselves as a one or two man band through dividends. The FT refers to reported some comments made in an online chat by Small Business Minister Paul Scully. Now, it's interesting that he made these points about working on a solution for people with dividends during the current crisis, because he actually runs a small business himself and said he does pay himself in dividends. So he has a personal interest in that. So those are the headlines this morning, and hope you have a good day.
Thanks, Charles. Yes, certainly a bit of scepticism in the chat as to your comments on Shell. So I think
Yes, I share that skepticism.
lovely. Okay, right, we're on to you, Tomo. What's your tip for us today?
Well, firstly, I've been wanting to do this for a very long time. Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. If you've watched it, you'll know exactly what I'm on about. If you haven't, where have you been? Tiger King, best TV I have watched in, I can't even remember how long. It's just, she didn't kill her husband. I think she did, Alistair. I think she did. On to the actual segment. I've just been really wanting to do that. So, as you did say, it's my birthday today, and I've got a couple of tips. The first one is, in this time of maybe not being able to get things delivered easily, or being able to control getting things sent from websites, my father decided to create a card for me for my birthday, which arrived today, and I thought I'd share it. I don't know if you can see that. It says, "I'm 33 and magical," with a lovely unicorn on it. He got very excited and sent me a few other cards, but it's fair to say they're not appropriate for sharing. Read into that what you will. I know I've ever got the confidence to post them anywhere yet. But my actual tip, my boring tip of today, tight ass Tomo tip, is something that a lot of you already know about, but I think it's always worth reminding ourselves, especially as it's a new tax year, and that's the marriage allowance. Something that often gets overlooked. It's a bit of admin. Those of you who do know, glaze over right now. Those of you who don't, if you're a basic rate taxpayer and your spouse is a non-taxpayer, you can actually get 10% of their personal allowance for yourself, which is great. It saves about 250 quid's worth of tax. And you're able to go back all the way to April 2016 if you fitted into that particular scenario in those years. And it's just something to pick up with your clients and just check your files and make sure that you're actually doing that. Because you imagine if you took on a new client, for example, and they've fitted that scenario. I think a lot of retirees fit that scenario still. And you could automatically get them £1,000 back in tax. So a real win straight away. Appreciate, few of you, this would be teaching you to suck eggs, but a good reminder that that's a really good allowance that's out there. So put it in your process.
All right, thank you very much, Tom. And so what do you think? Is there any place that explains this very easily? Because as somebody who's still doing the exams, I'm not a big fan of certain materials we are getting. So is there a particular place where you think it's easy to read up on these things?
Yeah, do you know what? Keep listening to this show and I'll keep firing them at you. But the government website is actually pretty good these days. So if you typed in marriage allowance into Google, or use this web address, gov.uk/marriage-allowance, everything is on there, explains it all, and even a link on how to claim it. So it's really simple, and something that I would definitely encourage doing.
All right, thank you very much, Tomo. We're going to now move on to our guest for today, who is Damien Rylett from Brunel Capital Partners and the Financial Planning Training Academy. So I'm very happy to welcome Damien. Damien, how are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm feeling a little bit old. I've got a very bad back at the moment. I'm just looking at some of these thumbnail pictures. It wasn't so long ago that I would have classed myself as next gen, but at the ripe old age of 45, I'm now feeling rather old.
Right, so you don't worry, there's plenty of people who are around your age on here. So a lot of people will probably know you from the Financial Planning Training Academy, and but they might not actually know much about Brunel Capital Partners. So can you please tell us a bit more about Brunel?
Yeah, sure. The reason why people probably haven't heard of Brunel Capital Partners is that we're fairly low key and managed to keep ourselves below the radar. But we're the Brunel group of companies consists of Brunel Capital Partners, which is a chartered financial planning firm based in Bristol. We've got 15 staff in Bristol. And in 2011, we acquired another financial planning firm, another chartered financial planning firm called Pilgrim Financial Planning, who are based in Wells in Somerset. And there are 6 staff down there. We also have an investment management firm that was set up 5 years ago called Iron Bright Investment Management. And that firm provides all the investment solutions to the 2 financial planning firms across the group.
Great, thanks. I think what's quite interesting in one of the new launches that have been the Financial Planning Training Academy is a one-to-one coaching program. Can you tell us a bit more about this program and how it works?
Yeah, of course. So for those of you that know the Financial Planning Training Academy, it's myself and Steve Martin. We run courses to help financial planners and advisors get better at what they do. Our core offering has been our first meeting skills workshop, and what was happening after those courses and workshops is that people were coming up to us and saying, can you help us with this specific issue, or can you help us with that specific issue? So we decided to start offering some one-to-one help for those people, and it may have been on subjects such as I'm struggling with client engagement, I'm struggling with my first meetings, I'm struggling with how to communicate the value that we add, I'm struggling to put some decent processes and procedures in place, produce documents, whether it's marketing, whether it's breaking even, or building a team. Anything that a financial planning business owner, any challenges or obstacles that a financial planning business owner might face, we're able to help. And I think our main point of difference is that there's some really, really good programs out there with the likes of Brett Davidson and Michelle Hoskin and Paul Armstrong and David Scarlett, but they are a program, and you have to go through that program from beginning to end. I think where our little difference is that we will deal with the specific issue or obstacle that's facing the individual, and it's a little bit more tailored. So in essence, the way it works is that it's a six session course, all conducted on Zoom over the course of 6 months. And we work to the individual set goals and objectives. And then at the end of the 6 months, if they want to finish, they can do. If they want to continue for another 6 months, they can do as well. The other thing to add as well onto the coaching program is at the moment we're running some free webinars. We've run 2 already on the 6 stages of financial planning. There's one this morning on asking questions but listening even better, and that one is running next week as well. So all the details for those free webinars can be found on the Financial Planning Training Academy website.
Thank you very much. That sounds very interesting. And if I can say so myself, Ward, when I joined Paradigm Norton, you did a training session at ours, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm sure
was it any good,
great. Yes, it was very good. I'm still here 2 years after, enjoying my job. So the next question I have is about the Personal Finance Society's Financial Planning Panel, which you're a member of. And I just want to ask you, what have you found most rewarding about being a member of that?
Most rewarding, simply just being able to make a difference. I used to be heavily involved with the Institute of Financial Planning before it was acquired by the CISI. What I'm enjoying is that the PFS has had a bit of a reputation over the years of being a little bit old school for the more traditional sales orientated advisor. But I think that's now changing. And I think that's testament to the work that the panel are doing. And especially with the new PFS Power brand. Yeah, just enjoying getting involved with the profession again and making a difference, hopefully.
Great. And so what's the panel focusing on for the rest of the year?
So there's lots going on. So I've already mentioned the PFS Power brand. That's big at the moment. So there's been some webinars recently that covered areas such as coaching and well-being. There are some new podcasts going out within the last few days. There's been a podcast interview with Alan Smith hosted by David Scarlett. There's one going out today which features Ruth Sturkey of Paradigm Norton. There's a huge amount of content going on to the PFS Power website. Lots of articles, lots of videos. There's also a new forum as well. So I'd like to take this opportunity to invite everybody to go across to the forum today, and a little competition. The first person to get onto the forum and post a new a new comment or subject on the group, the PFS will donate £50 to your choice of local NHS charity through this crisis. So there's a little incentive for people to get across there.
Great, thanks.
If I just jump in, for those of us who are not familiar with the way the PFS is structured, what's the role of the panel? Where does it kind of fit in, and what's it trying to achieve?
So it's a separate forum within the PFS. The PFS, as you know, is a huge organisation. It's part of the Chartered Insurance Institute. But the panel was set up to really try and drive financial planning within the membership. Because as I said, in the past, it had always been a little sales oriented and a little bit traditional and an old school, one might argue. But it's there to drive proper financial planning within the society, ultimately within the profession, and then hopefully so more consumers or members of the public can access proper financial planning.
Thank you. So finally, we have a question that we ask all our guests on this show, and it is, what are you most looking forward to when the lockdown is over?
Good question. Would I be a little bit weird if I said that I was quite enjoying the lockdown? It suits my personality. I'm quite happy with my own company anyway. But I think the thing that I'm looking forward to most, I do a huge amount of rugby coaching at my local club and at Bristol Bears Rugby Academy. And I think getting back out on the grass and coaching kids rugby is probably the thing that I'm looking forward to most.
Great, thank you so much, Damien. What do we have next, Marcus?
Thanks, Glenn. Up next, we've got a new regular feature, which is Marketing Focus. And on the show today, we've got Alistair Walker talking to Phil Bray and answering questions from you guys. So if you've got any questions for Alistair and Phil, please do pop them in the chat. Alistair, over to you.
Hello, everybody. Morning. I'm trying to out-geek Tom this morning. I've actually dressed for the occasion as well as put the background on. So hopefully that'll work. Yeah, I've got Phil, who probably needs introducing because none of you will have heard of Phil Bray. He's a bit of an under the radar kind of guy. Phil runs a small marketing agency called Yardstick, who do marketing, newsletter design, websites for all the best financial planning practices in the country, I hear. And I'm only slightly biased there. Morning, Phil.
Morning. Thank you for that fantastic introduction. Keep going.
The idea of a marketing segment, I think, was just this crisis has given people a bit more time, and that's both a blessing and a curse in my experience, personally at least. But one thing I'm seeing is a trend of people looking at working on the business as well as just in the business, and part of that is marketing. And I imagine people have all manner of questions about marketing. I had a few, so I'm going to pretend that that these questions people have asked and hope that it might appeal to people who are wondering about these things. I wrote a couple down. So I think the first and possibly most important question for me is, what trends are you seeing in terms of visits to financial planning websites that you look after? Are you seeing an uptick? Are you seeing less?
It depends on the source of the traffic. It's a good question, but it depends on the source of the traffic. So during March, when we looked at the beginning of April and looked back for March, we saw organic traffic had fallen. So organic traffic being traffic that predominantly Google has sent to the website, and that could be a brand search, someone looking for, in your case, Hanford Aiken Adam Walker, or a service-based search for something that you do. And I think fairly naturally that dropped off in March. People had other things to worry about during March, as we all headed into lockdown. But traffic from other sources, for example, newsletters and social media, had actually risen for a lot of the firms who had adopted a more front foot communication strategy. So it depends on the strategy of the firm and what they were doing during March. But generally speaking, organic traffic down, other sources up.
Sure, and I have this theory that as the panic abates from people who are in lockdown and boredom sets in, then eventually people are going to get to that pile of pension paperwork they've been putting off for years. And so I have this theory we might see an uptick in people looking for help and advice. And I was wondering if you're seeing firms that you work with making changes, or what changes you might recommend to people where they can say, actually, we are available.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think we through that initial wave of providing clients confidence, information, reassurance in whatever dose it was needed, and that most firms' clients are probably in a really good place right now, at least financially, and the way they feel about their financial future. But there are a lot of things firms can be doing to tap into that group of people who, like you said, Alistair, people are going to be working on their business. Some people might be working on their finances and doing those jobs that they've put off. We put a blog up on our website, I think it was last Friday, it might have been the week before, 12 things financial planners can do during this time to help engage new clients. For me, it's about being more social, spending more time on social media, being helpful, providing reassurance, etc. Innovating. So we're seeing some financial planners put webinars either on for existing clients or potential new clients. Updating their website to make it clear that they're open for business. We did your website a couple of weeks ago, Alistair, and changed the messaging on the above the fold on the homepage. So it's lots of little stuff like that. And I think, as I say, the blog's got 12 things in it, so go and look at our website and dig it out. But there's so many little things people can be doing right now, whether it's spending more time on social, pushing content out, running webinars, which are really easy to do. And the other thing we've found is you don't actually need such a long lead-in time on webinars. We're seeing it's possible to fill them up quite quickly. And also a larger proportion of those people who register are actually turning up on the webinar.
Well, I guess there's less distractions.
Absolutely, there's less to get in the way. We're more used to clearly sitting in front of a screen and interacting at the moment than we might have been before. So I think there's a lot of things firms can do at the margins, but also innovating, and webinars is a good way of looking at it.
I got to say a little bit of a personal anecdote, but I was speaking to the managing director of a business we've worked with over the years who are based in Gateshead. Now, we're not based in Gateshead or anywhere near it, and we were actually talking about possibly ending the business relationship 6 or 9 months ago. And we talked over Zoom the day before yesterday, and he said, we can just set a laptop up in our meeting room, and you can do your meetings with our members over Zoom. I don't know why I didn't think of it before. And it was like a light bulb had gone off in this guy's head, and I'm wondering if we will see that going forward.
Yeah, completely. I think there's chatting to Paul Armstrong on a webinar yesterday, and he made a really good point. There'll be a lot of people who reflect on their future and what type of future they want based on the lockdown period. And therefore personal plans might change, which will of course impact on their financial plan. So I think it's a period of reflection for a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. I want to pick up actually on something you said a little bit before. You talked about social and about being social, and I think this is possibly a bit of a fear or a bit of confusion for a lot of people. I mean, I'm quite active on Twitter when I can be bothered to install it on my phone, but I'm not acting as me, the financial planner. I'm acting as me who happens to be a financial planner, and I'm never sure whether should I have a corporate a version of me, like a LinkedIn profile version that's all smiley and gleamy and doesn't ever say anything that they did regret the next day, or should we be showing more of ourselves and letting clients find us by our personalities? Wonder if you've got any tips there.
I'm a big fan of being yourself. I really don't think you can put on an act for a prolonged period of time. So be yourself, and different people are attracted to different characteristics in others. So just be yourself. Be helpful, be useful, be sensitive right now. Don't sell, but be those things: helpful, useful, and sensitive. And personally, I would have a corporate Twitter account or Facebook account or LinkedIn account depending on where my target audience hung out. But I would also have the personal account. So, for example, from our account, we're often posting about my account, I'm often posting about Yardstick, and I would encourage everyone on the call to be posting about their businesses from their personal accounts, but on the right social media channels. Hang out where your clients hang out, which is not necessarily where you like to hang out socially.
I think I'm guilty of that one a little bit, so that's valuable for me at least. We've had a question from Marcus, very specific question. How important is Google, and specifically the Google My Business profile, for the marketing of a financial planning business?
Hugely important. Your clients will meet you online before you meet them, or a lot of them will, because they carry out a search on Google. And that might be because they are searching for your firm, having been referred to, you've seen you on a directory driven past your office or whatever. Or they're searching for a service that you provide. And what they see online will dictate their next step. Do they head to your website, look around and then get in touch? Or do they go off and search somewhere else? And if you think about a Google search results page for your business, your website should come up with site extensions. And at the top right corner, your Google My Business listing should come up. And you need to be visible and you need to be impressive. Part of being visible is the Google My Business listing. Part of being impressive is the same listing, because it should have ratings and reviews on there. If I was running a planning practice, the two places I would be using to collect ratings and reviews are Google and Vouchable. Google because it's visible, and Vouchable for a whole load of reasons we don't have time for now. So you Google My, sorry, go on, Ashton.
No, sorry to interrupt, but I was going to say, we've been doing exercise of trying to get people to leave Google reviews, and I've got to say, Google don't make it that easy, because I guess to prevent fraud and everything, they require people to have Google accounts, and I was finding the uptake was quite low until I started mentioning that, and then people get a lot less creeped out when Google says, "Oh, you need to sign up before you can leave a review."
Yeah, completely. You're right, they don't make it easy. And we're working with a planner at the moment who had 5 reviews yesterday and is now down to 2. So I'm not quite sure what went wrong there. So one of us, our team, needs to speak to Google today, which no one's going to relish. But I mean, I've seen firms with 20, 30. We've even got one client who's got 66 Google reviews. So it is possible. And just because their email address doesn't look like a Gmail address, doesn't mean it's not a Gmail address. So you should still ask them. But to answer your question, Marcus, Google My Business, really important. Keep it updated, get reviews on there, and add your blogs on there as well.
Thank you, Phil. Really valuable stuff this morning. I'm going to do a little bit of a question to the community for my Monday sort of tech slot. I have 2 ideas. One is to talk about some really interesting voice background noise cancellation software I found recently. And the other is to talk about something really exciting, which is Wi-Fi and how you can stop it being terrible. So if you have a preference, please let me know. But otherwise, it's back to Clem and Marcus.
Thank you both. That was very, very interesting. I think very insightful, especially for business owners who need to juggle all these different things and marketing. And I think, as you said, there's a lot of people who will think, do I really want to go to this rut again after all of this? And will probably be seeking out financial planners to see whether they can retire earlier, because they think, I don't want to do this anymore. So lots of opportunities. Thanks both, and we're going to move on to what we have on our show tomorrow, our Friday show, and we will have our usual financial well-being thought of the day with Chris Badd. Our fitness focus was the one and only Steve Martin, who will help us work off all the Easter eggs that we may have eaten over the past days, and 2 new presenters that will be joining the show as well.
Thanks, Clem. So looking forward to next week. We've got another week packed full of guests, including the impossible to say CEO of the CII, Sean Fisher. And we've also got a phone in on the current state of the PI market. So that just about wraps up today. Thank you guys. Stay safe and have a great day. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Happy
birthday
to you.
Happy
birthday,
dear
Titus
Tomo.
Happy birthday to you.
you.
Thank you very much, guys. Very kind of you.
Is it a big one, Tom?
No, 33.